Tracey, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
It's so good to be with you. This has been long overdue. We talked about doing this, I think, 18 years ago. No, just kidding. Like 6 months ago. Busy times, busy lives, but it's great to finally have you.
It is a joy to be here. So thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I would love it to get started for you just to introduce yourself. You're like the folklore within the HR tech. What's Tracy doing? What's Tracy doing? But we should probably do a kind of a formal introduction.
So, hi, everyone. I'm Tracey Franklin. I am the Chief People and Digital Technology Officer at Moderna. So, I've been in this specific role for about 18 months. Prior to that, I was the CHRO. And prior to coming, so I joined the company about 6.5 years ago, so pre pandemic. And prior to joining Moderna, I spent my career at Merck Pharmaceuticals, all in HR, both within the US and outside the US.
Great. So, Tracy, one of the things people ask me all the time, and I'm going to ask you, is were you raised by your parents to be in HR? Like, how did you get into HR to begin with?
So that's a fascinating question. So in university, originally I thought I was going to be a French business major. And then I realized economics and advanced French was not my thing when I was trying to balance having fun in college. And so I actually moved in to get a degree in communication arts and sciences. And as I was reaching my graduation, I was like, what am I going to do with this? And so I decided to go get my master's in industrial organizational psychology. And so I did that. And coming out of that, I kind of had the same, like, well, now what do I do with this? Because I realized like research wasn't really the area I wanted to go into. And I said, I think I'm going to start to look into HR. Someone mentored me to kind of do that, one of my professors. And I said, the one thing I absolutely don't want to do is recruiting. I don't want to be a recruiter. And my absolutely first job was in recruiting. So I had the opportunity to join Merck in recruiting, and I took that.
Well, thank you for taking time to share. I mean, there's so many students out there, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, that are wondering, like, where's the world going and what's happening with first year careers and things like that. So I love getting into that. But the other thing I would love is for you to talk a little about Moderna. A lot of people didn't hear of Moderna before
Yeah.
2020, and now it's a Kleenex brand name, basically.
Yeah. So when I joined Moderna in 2019, so it was October of 2019, we were about 850 or so people, Massachusetts based only. For those familiar with pharma or biotech language, we were in phase two clinical trials, moving into phase three for a product we thought we were going to launch in like 3 or 4 years. Fast forward time a couple months later, and boom, the pandemic hit. And we decided, since we thought our technology could play a meaningful role, that it was our responsibility and our willingness to kind of lean in and help there. And so essentially, we went from like I said, Massachusetts based only company to fully commercial, 17 countries around the globe, about 5,000 people. There was a blank sheet of paper for a lot of functions. So we had a lot of rapid growth during that period of time to be able to bring the COVID vaccine to market.
Yeah, which is amazing that you were able to bring it to market the way you did, and thank goodness, and thank you for all of your efforts there. That blank sheet of paper, though, I wanna, like, let's take that
Yeah.
and jump right into
Yeah.
what we wanna talk about, 'cause I think that's a great way to talk about it. So, as you talk and you introduce yourself as an HR officer and digital officer, I assume that wasn't a role that existed before you stepped into it. So I assume that was a little like a blank sheet of paper. Am I assuming that right or not?
You're assuming that correctly. Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
what
prior,
so is there a I mean, I'm curious, sorry to interrupt. Is there a positive to a blank sheet of paper, would you say? Or
I
would
think
you
there's
say
an absolute positive. There's a positive to a blank sheet of paper. There's a piece that's frightening to a blank sheet of paper, right? And I think when you bring those two concepts together, a little bit of fear, a little bit of boldness, a little bit of positivity, I think great things happen. Obviously, as you saw with what we were able to do from a company perspective, and what we're on the journey to do with my role, as you just brought up.
so the thought of joining HR and quote unquote IT together, you know, is about as scary to most people as thinking about an agent doing work that I used to do. And, I'd say the concept of the fear of becoming obsolete is probably something that either IT or HR people start thinking about when we start thinking about this? And, kind of cutting right to the chase,
Yeah.
like, why did you do this? And, maybe some lessons learned to start, and then we'll
Yeah,
go from
sure.
there.
Yeah, sure. So we built the company very quickly during the pandemic because we needed to. And so we were in the process of looking back and saying, okay, how do we rebuild some of these functions so they're really optimal? And so we have a very tech first approach from a company perspective. And so I started and we started to talk about how about if we think about the work. So leader agnostic, function agnostic. And if you just focus on like how work flows through an organization, and if you think about if you had technology to apply to it, so whether that's software, hardware, robotics, AI, apply that tech stack first. And then how do you put humans in and around that? And so we started to really like galvanize around that concept from a company perspective. And what we first did was manage it through an operating committee that I chaired. So we had the People, Process, and Technology Operating Committee, where we had myself, the CIO, the CFO, and then a bunch of really high performing senior leaders on that team to think about work that crossed over a whole bunch of functions. And so we were
Can
managing.
I get tactical for a second? Sorry to interrupt
Yeah,
you. Did you
sure.
call
No.
that the PPT? The PPT, like PowerPoint opera just kidding. The PPT operating committee, because there's a lot of people like, "How in the heck do you do this?"
Yeah.
So sorry to interrupt you, but, like, that's a great idea, but people can't even, like, what does that committee look like? Who's on it?
Okay. Yeah, yeah. So it was a CEO and executive committee sponsored committee. So almost think about it like a board committee. So you have like a comp and talent committee or a, product development committee. So we thought about it like almost like a board committee but to the EC that was really going to focus on making improvements across how we break down barriers and silos, how we build in a tech first way, and how do we just become more efficient and have higher quality so we can deliver to patients. And so we had that level of conversation sponsorship starting with the CEO. And then, like I said, it was myself, the CFO, and the CIO at the time. And then we had senior leaders who reported to the EC members who were super passionate about making a difference, who were in big roles, who wanted to innovate and think about how to do things differently. And we brought them into a room on a regular basis and said, what are the biggest problems and challenges that we have or opportunities to drive the biggest ROI from a company perspective? And how do we start to go about making improvements in that space? And it's interesting because I think, listen, I've been part of transformation offices and things like that in the past. And so it runs the risk of getting too heavy and and so we had to work really hard to try not to do that with this committee and really enable people to start making changes without like a whole bunch of governance and layers around it. But that's how we started this journey.
And that's one of you used the word rebuild, like you said, rebuild functions. And,
Yeah.
usually, like when people start saying rebuild, sometimes that rings of transformation. And, instead of like reset or like, did you actually like knock everything down and start from zero? Or was it really like, okay, let's do a little, one of the things, Tracy, sorry to stutter a little bit, but one of the things people ask me all the time is this incremental or exponential? And I'm curious as to, did you do little incremental changes to get to where you're trying to get to? Or was it, guys, this is a big reset, kind of like the big dig, right? Wasn't that what it was called in
It
Boston? The
was
big
a big
dig?
dig. It was a big
Yeah.
dig.
Like a big
Um,
dig where we're just going to go from scratch.
Yeah. So I actually said we approached it both. So we picked like two or three of the biggest high priority cross-functional processes, for lack of a better word, like material planning. It goes from research all the way through commercial. And we said, okay, how can we really fundamentally look at that differently? But at the same time, we wanted to make sure we were making improvements where we needed to. And so I think one of the things that we believe as a company is that stagnation is not always a good thing, right? A lot of people think, well, I've designed it, I must have had to get it right, and it should stay in place forever that way. But if you're constantly adjusting to the work, and listen, we're a younger company, we have an advancing portfolio, we are shifting and pivoting a bit more than, say, a more stable, larger company that's more consistent in some ways. And so, but we are pivoting to make sure that we're adjusting to how we needed to do things. During the pandemic, we did build in certain ways that weren't going to be sustainable because we didn't have to have as much product leaving the door, for example. So it was a combination of trying to pick a couple of big transformational things to show people the possibility of how when you actually work together and you take your ego out of it and how you can really improve how work gets done.
So, can I ask you a personal question?
Sure.
Like, how technical are you? Because that's what a lot of HR people say to me. They're like, "How could someone ever in HR start to do this? I didn't go to school to be a coder, or I didn't go to school
Yeah.
to do that." Like, is that it kind of goes back to how did you get in HR, but are you a coder?
Let me describe the philosophically why we brought the role together. And so, what I started to realize during the course of the work that we were doing is that HR did like a phenomenal job of workforce planning. So, really had it down. Like, this is how we do people planning, and this is the process around it. The tech team did a great job to say, this is how you do portfolio management and how you manage tech projects. But there wasn't a place to bring them together and say, like, this is actually all how work gets done. So whether it's a software system, whether it's a human being, they're almost interchangeable, right? In terms of, okay, this is a bolus of work. And so I started to say it's really work planning. And as you do things like introduce new software or you introduce new AI, the capability and the ecosystem and the cost and the human, that all should start to change around it. And so we are in the process of bringing that concept together to do better long range planning for the company, to say, okay, this is all how work gets done and we really need to think about this in this way. And that's when my CEO was like, well, I think you should lead both of those. Yeah, that's how it happened.
So, in a way, could I say you just took the and I know this is gonna, drive a next conversation, but did you just take the HR did you just take the H out of HR? So, you're the chief resource officer, and you're dealing with all the company resources, both human and machine.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah.
At the same time, I realize I just alienated a bunch of people who think that the HR job is to think about humans. And I guess the question going forward is, do you think that more and more the HR role should be a role that's looking at humans and machines together to deliver the optimal work? Or do you think there should be someone that's handling the human side and someone handling the machine side?
I think HR should be handling the human and AI component for sure. Because AI is not a technology. And that's where a lot of people are they're just leading with like, oh, we're rolling out this tech. And it's like, it's way more than tech. And it should disrupt how work gets done. It should disrupt, what humans do. You need to learn how to acculturate agents. Agents should have identities. You need to know how much they cost. And the identity thing is really controversial right now, but I think the way AI technology is moving, it's compounding at a rate that we as humans can't even understand it. And so I think the mistake people are making is like, oh, AI is free. But it's like, no, AI needs to have security access. It needs to have a role. It needs to have permissions. It needs to be corrected when it does something it shouldn't be doing. Because guess what? AI is doing that currently. And so someone should be looking at that ecosystem together. And I believe it's not going to be long until you have AI sitting right next to you from the board all the way down. And whether that's in a shape of a bot with a really strong powered AI brain or a computer system, like we will need to think about teaming and partnering in ways that we almost can't wrap our head around today.
So, how much of that's been and I think I know the answer to this. How much of that's been learning for you? Because I think that a lot of people are scared that, like, I don't know this. I don't know this. And I'm like, well, I don't know this. And I've been doing this a long time. I think we're building this together. I think 2025 was a movie. I think
Yeah.
2026 is a movie. And we're going to look back on it in 5 years and say, whoa,
Yeah.
like we really built a lot. I mean, do you know all these answers? Or are you,
Of course, I do not. I'm learning every single day, and I've made a lot of mistakes along the way. Like we were early adopters, partnered with OpenAI to roll out ChatGPT. We even had our own version, and I rolled it out like a tool training that maybe we didn't have the most productivity. And so as we think about this next gen, particularly around vibe coding, it's a massive unlock, massive unlock. You see people doing amazing things across the company with it, but we are managing it in a much more controlled way because we learned it's not just the technology, it is the people, process, data, and then tech that may enable really doing things differently. And so we're super big on work reinvention versus like a tech transformation.
Now, I mean, I love that, and I talk about it all the time, and I've, been quoted as saying, "I don't think AI adoption even is the right term. I think it's embodiment." Like, how do I embody and how do I go from hype to habit where it becomes a habitual way of how do I work and think, and it's not just about how many people logged into the tool today. Is that right?
1000%. And I think I like to think about it in two buckets. There's a personal productivity piece of AI. And that's where you're seeing a lot of push. Like when people are saying everyone should be using AI, to me, it's a lot around personal productivity. And can we make you 20% more efficient in your day? But then there's like where I have a ton of energy is around truly the work reinvention pieces and how we are using VS Code, vibe coding. We have agents who are helping us redefine process mapping right now. And so it's like we're even having the agents helping us break our human mold of possibility around where are the air gaps, where are data handoffs, where are there issues to be able to say, this is how you might reinvent this. And I think that to me is the super exciting part of a technology that's amazing is how does it actually work in your ecosystem?
So, how did you or how are you changing the mindset of this is going to replace my job and this is going to cost me
Mm.
my job
Yeah,
to which is, a common fear of becoming obsolete and am I
yeah.
still relevant discussion to let's rethink this and let's realize that these because I mean, you used a lot of action words as to what your agents were doing that would scare a lot of people, like, "I don't know how to manage these people." Agents, how have you brought people along? I call that the heart set work, which is how do I bring people along? Like, how have you done that?
I think in the early days, we democratized access and said, everybody play with it and upskill. And then what I will tell you is a big benefit that we give our employees is their own upskilling around this and their own empowerment to redesign how their work gets done. Cause it's a skill set that they could use here, they could take with them. It's a marketable skill set to say, yes, I've worked in an environment where I have had access to tools, I've been able to implement them. So I think people get
So
excited about that.
yeah, so sorry, Nora, when you say give it to them, because this is where I think that there's some rub. People think, "Hey, I gave them Copilot licenses." Is that what you mean by give it to them? Are you giving them education? When you say you
We
give
give
it to
so
them,
we give them access to tools, so everyone in our company has access to ChatGPT and Copilot and those things, but we have a whole, like, training library
okay.
and, that they're able to go to upskill. We have Teams channels, we have a whole bunch of places where people can interact. Because I believe this is, like, grassroots efforts are much more powerful on this space, like, let people get in, see what they can do, be creative, partner with someone, next to them or in an adjacent function and say, what problem are we solving? And let's solve this problem together. And so I think people get excited about that. We never lead with cost. Nobody gets excited about using AI for cost reduction. I don't get excited about that. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to drive innovation. We're trying to drive productivity and performance so we can get our amazing life-saving and improving medicines to people who need them. And so to be able to really give people opportunity to create that, I think is amazing. So we've never led with like, take out low cost work or, redundancy and low cost work. Like, I just don't think that that's the way to hook people. And we have gone as far as to say, like, if you create, like, eliminate your job, for lack of a better word, because you've created an innovative way to do it, that's something that we're going to reward. Right. And so
I
you
love
shouldn't
that.
be scared
Yeah.
of that because that means you're innovating, you're doing what we want. So let's see where your skills can, apply somewhere else in the company.
So how much have you seen the let's just talk about the HR function for a second. How much have you seen the HR function change as a result of that? And just one more, I'll add. Sorry, I'm so
Love
bad at interrupting and
it.
asking. I'm so curious at the same time. Um, how much have you been able to do it with the existing staff? Because when I talk with CHROs all over the world, they oftentimes say to me, "My staff isn't going to get there. I'm going to need new people, et cetera, et cetera." And I was like, I don't know if you need to throw the baby out with the bathwater so quickly. you can bring people along, but I might be wrong, Tracy.
So I think a skill set has emerged that I like to call like the modern day OD skill set, right? So it's OD with a tech flair. And so there are people who can work with their, say, HR business partner, can work with their business leader and be able to say, okay, let's look at the work. Let's and really do some of that to traditional OD stuff, but say, okay, let me partner with tech. You don't have to understand everything about tech, but you need to understand the right questions. You need to partner with tech and say, okay, how can we think about this differently? And almost be that orchestrator of finances, tech, So I think that skill set is emerging. I see people from HR able to do it. I see people from tech able to do it, and I see business leaders able to do it. And so I have a combination of like what I'm calling like work reinvention leaders who are coming from all of those places together. I agree we shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, and it is a natural upskilling. And so we have said, okay, in the HR business partner world, like this is the modern day HR business partner is to be able to do work planning. But let me help you get there and let me provide the skills. And so we're and the for lack of a better word, tools and templates and stuff that you just need to use on a daily basis. So we're creating that right now. But I do think it's evolving some of the roles within HR, but not all. So there's still a very human part of HR that is critically important, and the culture and how we manage people and how we drive performance. Like none of that is going away, and it's still really important.
Okay. So when you think about that, I mean, there's a lot of people that have seen a lot, hear about Moderna, hear the work that you've done, Tracy, and people are like, oh my God, I bet they can never even find a human to talk to in HR. I bet they can only find agents to talk to. Like, so,
No.
I mean, can you dispel that rumor
We're
or?
I'm dispelling that rumor. And we are still on a journey. We are, leaning into all the newest technologies around it. But I do think from a vision perspective, like I think there will be an advanced way to think about shared service center or more junior level generalist type work that we've been in the industry talking about forever, thinking about how to do differently. I actually think you could provide higher quality service. There's some really cool tools out there. It's been a couple of years since I looked at them, but I want to look at them again, where you can create an avatar. The avatar recognizes your emotion, and so you can sign on, and it's like, hey, you think about a AI driven service center versus just a ServiceNow ticket or something, right? And you say like, hey, I'm having a baby, I want to understand this, or I'm struggling with my manager, and they can actually provide a level of emotional support, but then have all of your knowledge base behind it. Like, yes, do I think that we're heading in that direction? For sure. But do I believe that all of HR is going to be a bunch of agents? No, I don't believe any function is going to be a bunch of agents. I think that's a fallacy.
And if you think about your workforce coming along, so, I'll use an example. My mom is 85.
Yeah.
You know, tell me the weather today. And when I watch her do that, I'm like, why are you holding that so close to your mouth? And why are you talking so slow? She's like, it doesn't understand me. And I think that we live in a world where a lot of people think these bots are, I call it three C's: creepy, crappy, or clunky, because we're used to Amazon, used to Alexa or Siri, where we can't reason with it, we can't talk to it, and we're like, tell me the weather to change the station to CNN. And then this dang thing doesn't work type thing. So it did you does your workforce okay using these types of tools? Like, and or do you realize, are people still pushing back like self-service grocery? I'm never going to do that. I was never trained on how to check out my own groceries.
Yeah, I think it's an evolution. I think one of the things that was a learning for me, honestly, and I think is a learning for everyone, is how quickly AI is advancing. And so, even when I think about a year ago, some of the like ChatGPT solutions we came up with that people were like, oh, this is crap. It's not going to work as good. It gave me wrong data or whatever. The models have shifted so greatly. And now we actually have a way better product. And so, we're trying to instill this like you got to keep going back to it. You got to keep going back to it. And so every time you're done designing something in it for an AI solution, you should be iterating on the next one because that's how good it's getting. And that is humans can't understand the compounding nature of how fast AI is going. So they're like, you think about Workday or Success Factors or something. Like you go in, you do your module, and you're like, well, that was fine-ish. You know, the next model, the next,
Sorry.
nothing bad about like, right?
Ish.
But
Fine-ish.
I didn't say bad, fine-ish. And so, but the next model, you think, okay, the next model's not coming out for another year. It'll be incremental, totally different, totally different. And so we have to, as humans, do a better job of revisiting. And that's where I find that there's some where I have to move people along in the organization who are not naturally excited by technology or new innovation.
So I wasn't going to talk about this necessarily about, but you brought it up. So now it's kind of opened the door. Like when it comes to vibe coding, like I was giving a speech yesterday in Minneapolis and someone asked me the question, like, do you think that vibe coding is going to replace Oracle, Workday, Success Factors, ServiceNow, blah, 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 blah. And, there's lots of different opinions on this. I've been in the mode, Tracy, lately where I'm like, could and should. Could it and should it? Based on, is that the best way to spend tokens? Or is that the best thing you want your people spending their time doing when there's already something exists? And then there's a bunch of people say, oh, you could never do that with vibe coding because you don't know all the regulations, you don't have all the security, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just curious, is that coming into discussion at all
Yeah,
in your world?
totally. Yeah, 100%. My CEO and my IT team and I talk about it often because it comes up. I'm where you are, because we are mind melded, even though we don't interact a lot, but we have a lot of the similar philosophies. Could it? I think so. Should it? Is that the best use of my time to recreate a workday? I'm not sure that that's where I'm going to add the most value to the company right now in the short term. And so I think where our focus is around getting our data, getting the right ownership, getting the right, because data is huge. Right ownership, right, like master data, having it called the similar thing, putting it in the same place. Then you can use it and you can make a connector to vibe coding. You have a better front end to a workday. You know what I mean? And you can open the connection back and forth so you can make changes and
Well, and you
stuff.
shouldn't
So
even know it's Workday. You shouldn't even know that.
you wouldn't even know, right?
Right.
And so, but do I want to replace SAP right now and Viva and like, you know, it's not something I think should be the short-term focus. It'll be interesting to see how it evolves, the industry evolves, but I think our focus is let's get the data in the right place so that our agents can access it in a clean and safe way.
Yeah, I mean, I think the group I was speaking to in Rhode Island yesterday, I was talking about, I had 1,000 people chant "Data is sexy." And I think they actually wondered what I was doing. And I was like, guys, this is the fuel for everything going forward. And if you don't believe that, no matter what job you are, a customer service rep, you have to understand that data is going to be the differentiator or the fuel for the organization. I'm curious as to what you have vibe coded. If there's something that you'd say, hey, we could vibe code and actually get into production. Because I feel like everyone, and I'm sorry to date myself, I think everyone thinks of, do you remember Tinker Toys? Like,
I've
everyone
heard of
remembers, like,
them.
yeah, Tinker Toys. Like, this is something that's really, we could build, but guess what? If the wind blows, it's gonna fall over.
Okay.
Like like,
Yeah.
is there actually stuff you could vibe code for value in an enterprise today?
1000%. 1000%. There is very technical stuff that I would be remiss to try to repeat because I'm not technical on research. The research organization is wildly excited about what they're doing in vibe coding. It's everywhere across the company at the most senior levels. We have real examples of what people are vibe coding. Supply chain is ripe for vibe coding. Our head of supply chain has created, control towers and things like that in terms of what we've used VS Code for. I personally am creating a work planning tool. What I'm trying to do, it's not a work planning tool. What I'm trying to do is to be able to show the board and my EC and my CFO and everything 26, 27, 28, 29. When you look at by sub function, where are the sub functions at in terms of their adoption of technology? To keep it simple, low, medium, or high. Where are they at with labor arbitrage? What's their headcount plan? And what is the roadmap that they think they're going to get there? And there's a lot of models behind it and a lot of assumptions so that I can crank out and say, this is how I think the company is going to look over time. And this is the cost, I think, because I have to assign some cost to AI. AI is not free. Everybody thinks it's free. It's not free. And so this is how I think this might evolve. And it's through like a vibe coded app. I had mentioned earlier, like we're using VS Code to do process design. So we've got VS Code in the background. We have it linked to ChatGPT. A layperson can say, "This is my process." It gives it prompts. This is what it goes through. It goes back into an MD file, goes in, and then the agents create a whole, process and all the air gaps and everything that we might want to redesign. So yes, I think it is um, a tool that's going to unlock work reinvention like I have not seen before. That I'm really excited about.
I love that. And I heard a quote as walking this morning on the way to the airport about prompting. And they basically said prompting is just it's from your brain. Like prompting doesn't just come from your fingers and all of a sudden you type. Like it still requires your brain. And that's really what you just talked about was you coming up with a business need, solving a business problem, and then applying a technology like we've never seen to
Yeah,
it, right?
yeah, totally.
But you still need the creativity.
You need the creativity. It's your, and this is what we talk about all the time. It's what's in your head. We're just trying to make an easy way to get it out. And then the tools will create something cool for you. You tell an agent, create something really cool with this concept, and it will. But it needs the subject, what you're trying to accomplish from an ROI perspective. But I don't think, like I said in the beginning, I'm not rolling out vibe coding to the entire company right now. It's a intimidating tool and it also has a lot of power. And so what we're finding is, so one, I want to make sure we're focused on the highest ROI. But then there are three risks that I'm trying to manage. There's operational risk, someone making a mistake in terms of what they're vibe coding. There's cost risk. So if just running up the cost of the cloud. And then there is security risk. And so we do have instances that are real instances in our play area where the agent is agentic and you ask it to do something simple and it actually does something that you're not expecting it to do, like potentially leak information out of the company or connect to something you didn't ask it to do. And so it is a very powerful tool that I think needs to be treated with respect.
So one of the reasons that Jessamine Bank and I have started our new Now to Next company around bringing AI studios into organizations is I really believe there's a K-shaped economy and not tied to income, but tied to knowledge. And I'm curious as to your thoughts of this. I think there's people who are on this upswing, who are vibe coding every day, who are self-learning every day, who are taking advantage of tools. And then I think there's a group of people who are on the down part of the K, who are falling further and further behind every single day. And I guess my question to you on that is because we do a lot of education and because I do a lot of work with universities, when you're looking at people to come into
Hmm.
Moderna
Hmm.
today, are you looking at for different skills? Are you seeing if they have that the upper part of the K mindset, or are you just saying, "Hey, we need critical thinking, we need passion, blah blah blah"? Has that changed what you're looking for in the future employee?
So we have always had digital as being part of our values and our mindsets. So having a digital, leaning into like a digital first type of approach. So we screen for that anyway coming
And what is
in.
that? Is that like a beginner's mindset? Like you aren't afraid to break glass and you're open to change? Like, what does that mean, digital? Because a lot of people say that, and the first thing they do is say, "Do you know
Technology that
Python?"
you know, yeah, more technology, like you're willing to think about using technology to do something that could be traditionally you wouldn't have done it that way before. But like, so for example, in recruiting, you would be interested to think about using AI to do your first round or using AI to screen, right? Where you might have someone traditional say, "No way, I'm not going to give that up. I don't want to." And so we want openness to exploration around that. And so we've always done that. I think what I want to make sure the way I approach technology adoption is similar to how I think about belonging, diversity, and inclusion. So I always say to people, just lock arms wherever you are in your belief system, and just take one step forward. I think it's unrealistic to set the bar to say everyone must be up at this level, whether that's on D&I, whether that's on technology, because I don't think everyone should be spending all their time vibe coding right now. I think we should be focused on reinventing work. And then I am also with my team saying, okay, what are the couple of personal productivity apps or tools that we could post to our common like app store that people don't have to go create on your own? I don't want everybody creating the same thing in the company. That's not a good use of time. And so I think there are naturally going to be people who love vibe coding. I work with them and they do it on the weekends and they create apps and they do all this stuff, right? And I'm like, okay, yes, I've been in the system. Yeah, it's interesting to go into VS Code and start to vibe coding in the power, and it's cool. Am I going to be a master vibe coder? No, I just don't think that's where my value is adding to the company in the best way. But do I need to understand it? Do I need to know the power of it? Do I need to know how to deploy it? Do I need to know how to? Yes. So it's almost an intellectual acumen that I think people need to have and be willing to want to go on that journey instead of like boxing it out.
No, no, it's really interesting to me because I get it from talking to people, like passion and things like that. I'm not even sure you should systemically try to do it. So, because I spend a lot of time in education, once again, what advice are you giving them? Because there are so many people right now that are trying to say, should I go to college? Is Moderna going to want to hire me if I don't go to college? What should I be studying in college? Do I get a degree in AI, even though I love marketing and art? Um, have you given your kids any advice on that?
I literally, if I showed you my text, my daughter was texting me this morning. She's going to be a junior and she's thinking about colleges. Is marketing still going to exist because AI is coming?
Yes, I mean, and that's why I asked the question because people ask me every day, Tracy.
Yeah, yeah. So here's my current perspective, although I'm not in it like you are. So you honestly probably have a better perspective than me. Um, so I think the future workforce is very relevant. I think they are going to create incredible impact in companies. I think what we would want and what we want today is people who are adaptable, who are curious, who are willing to learn, and who are able to solve problems. And so those are like kind of core skill sets that I think are applicable today, but certainly will be applicable in the future. I think if you go so far down to be such a specialist in something, I don't know. I don't know what
I like
how
that such a.
but like I don't know how that's going to evolve over time. So honestly, I can give you my and again, I'm not an expert. My advice to my daughter was if you're thinking about something in business school, I would just do more generic. I would just do learning, just get a broader set of learning versus going somewhere super specific. But I do believe in continuous education. I do believe the future workforce is critical, and I do believe there'll be roles for them.
Have you started to change your first year career ladders at all? Since a lot of that job might be done by your army of agents. We've hired people as grunt work oftentimes for the first jobs, and that work, to be honest with you, should be done by an agent. Have you started to change
We
that?
started to think about it because I think we will still hire, first out of college. It'll
I think
just
we'll have major talent problems if we don't,
We
right?
have to. And I just think, listen, when I was right out of school and right out of grad school, like the work I was doing was well beneath my intellect, well beneath it. Like I could have contributed at a much higher level coming in anyway. And so I think
I like
people
that flex. I like that flex there, Tracy.
it was true. I was like fixing like a recruiting system. I don't even know what it was, but I was entering resumes, uploading them. I was like, I have my master's and I'm uploading resumes into a system. Like, what's happening right now? No, so it was a good learning, and I learned how to roll my sleeves up and get work done, which is important. I still do that today. I think we'll just apply, their intellect to different problems and train them in a different way than we do today.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know we're almost out of time, but just one last question. So your peers, which are thousands of chief people officers, chief HR officers, are thinking about this. They're watching you, they're thinking about this. I'd say you've been incredibly brave. You've been a poster child. Um, you've learned the lessons. Like, what's your advice to them? I mean, I've worked with CIOs who say, I don't think the way Moderna did it was right. I think that the HR people should report into me, the CIO. And it's made me question, like, does it actually matter? Are the titles not really matter? Do the titles not matter here? My short question, which I've made long, is what do we help HR leaders think about to become ready for the now of work?
I think it's all about work planning in an human and AI integrated environment. And I think if we manage AI like a technology, we will fail in terms of the human adoption piece and really harnessing the power of what AI can do to disrupt, and really think about work reinvention. And I use disrupt in a positive way, not a negative way, in a positive way. And I think HR is, in my opinion, responsible for that. It doesn't mean they need to own all of technology. So our model at Moderna works for us. It works for us. It's a broad role that I do. I'm not saying every company should do that, right? But I do think HR should drive a lot of the um, AI agenda, which is much more than technology.
And it's much more than training.
It's much more
How
than
do you
training.
how
Yeah,
to use Copilot
yeah,
or
yeah,
ChatGPT or
yeah,
something like that.
yeah, yeah.
What scares you most about AI?
What scares me most about AI is agents are a have agency. And I think what we are seeing, what I'm reading about externally is, I don't know if you read anything about Project and Mythos and agents.
A lot of it goes over my head, but at the same time, there's a part of me that I'm like, I don't know about you, but there's a part of me where I'm like, I'm actually glad someone's actually being a little bit responsible
1000,
and thinking about this
1000%,
a bit.
1000%. And so I think the AI responsibility is super important from companies like Anthropic and those who have come out and stated that they want to be responsible. But I think what scares me from a company perspective and why we're being really responsible around it is if you give people a powerful tool, but you don't have the right security around it, they don't understand what they might be doing, making inadvertent mistakes, I think you could find yourself at some operational risk. So that's what scares me the most.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think that the other thing that scares me a little bit, Tracy, is that I still think that people think it's hype.
Oh, yeah, it's not.
I mean, it's
It's
real.
not.
It's
It's
real and it's here
very real,
now. If the
and it's not
question is,
going
and I
away.
go back to that could and should,
Yeah,
could it? Yes. Should it? Are
yeah,
you ready?
yeah,
Is your organization ready?
yeah. And I think like my other piece of advice to HR leaders around kind of leaning into the I don't be frightened by the technical pieces of it. Like I am not vibe coding every single day. I do not understand all the mechanics behind it, but what I know I can impact is how we recreate work, how we acculturate, how we make employees have a meaningful career impact, how we do responsible AI and have the right identity and cost structures around them. And so I just think, don't be scared of the technology.
Well, I'm going to say something in closing. I hope that your girls are wicked proud of their mom
Thank you.
because you are truly paving the future of our industry. And it's probably hard to see. And there's no way your girls are going to listen to 45 minutes of banter between us. But I hope that they're wicked proud because there's a lot that you're doing that a lot of organizations are going to have to do. And thank you for leading the way because it's making it a lot easier for everyone else.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That's very kind.
Thank you so much for being here. I hope this was fun. Sorry I interrupted you a few times.
Oh, it's so fun.
Sorry
Yeah.
we didn't follow the script,
I'm,
um, but can't wait to keep
I'm
up.
not a script kind of gal, so we're good.
Can't wait. It's not in your glasses. It's not in your yeah. Can't
I
wait to
wish
keep.
that'll be my next one.
Yeah, exactly.
Really
Can't.
AI, you didn't realize it's not
Yeah.
even
Oh,
Tracy.
it's not even you. Poke, poke. I can't wait to keep up with the journey. Thank you so
Right.
much, Tracy.
Cool. Thank you.
Talk to you soon. Bye
Okay.
bye.
Bye.